Hey guys, welcome back to another lesson in my beginner piano course level 1. If you enjoy these videos, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. In the previous lesson, we learned about harmonic intervals, which is basically two notes played at the same time creating a harmony. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about our first chords, the C major chord and the G7 chord. A chord is three or more notes played at the same time, so they're a little bit richer than harmonic intervals, although the notes of the chord form harmonic intervals with each other. But if you have three or more notes, it's called a chord and not a harmonic interval. We use chords for different purposes. We can use them to accompany a melody, to create support, to create harmonic support or accompaniment. And we can also use chords for the melody to enrich the melody, and the melody can actually be formed of chords. Now let's have a look at these two chords. Let's try to build them and practice them with both the right hand and left hand. It's crucial to be able to play them with both hands, not just the left hand. As you can see in many popular songs, the left hand is mostly playing chords and the right hand is playing melody. But as an accomplished pianist, you have to be able to play chords just as well with both hands. As you can see on the screen now, it says C major chord 1. That's the Roman number 1, and we use Roman numbers for chords. Don't worry too much about why we use 1 and 5. We're going to learn about that in the next lessons when we learn about the first scale, the C major scale, and the primary chords of C major. But for now, all we need to know is that C major is chord 1 and G7 chord is 5-7. Okay, so we're going to start with this C major chord. Now the right hand is going to start with number 1 on the C, number 3 on the E, and number 5 on the G. So all the notes are a skip away from each other. C, E, G. And then once you play them after each other, try to get all three of them down together at the same time. So up and down. Curved fingers, and just make sure you really practice getting the three notes together. Sometimes it can be very tricky. Sometimes it can sound like this. So up, concentrate, and all three notes down together, and that's our C major chord. The left hand is going to start at the low C, number 5 this time, 3 on the E, and 1 on the G. Again, all three together. And then you can practice this hands together. And now what you'll see here is the two forms of C major. The first one is a broken chord, which means that the notes are broken up individually. You play them after each other, almost like melodic intervals. And then you play the three notes together, and that's the full chord. So broken chord, full chord. The next chord is the G7 chord, which we're also going to call 5-7, so V stands for 5. And this one is a little bit different. We're going to start right hand number 1 on the B, 4 on the F, and 5 on the G. So B, F, G. We have a very tight little position here, and it's a very stretchy one between the B and the F. B, F, G, and together. Now the seventh chord, the G7, the reason why it's called 7 is because we have these clashing notes here at the top, and that's what makes it the 7th chord, but that's what's going to make it very important, and we'll see that later on why. Left hand starts 5 on the B, 2 on the F, and 1 on the G. Now let's practice it as a melodic interval. And chord. Broken chord, chord. Now with this one, pay special attention to make sure the three notes go down together, because these two fingers are quite weak, so it's going to be harder to make them move at the same time. Before we play our practice piece for today, let's do a little exercise which is going to help us transition between the two chords, because that can be a real tricky business. So we have to play first the C chord, and then the G7, back to C, and G7. Now this looks very simple, but actually you have to readjust your hand and the finger numbers. The right hand starts 1, 3, 5, and then the thumb moves down to the B, and number 4 moves to the F, but the 5 stays the same, the G stays the same. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 4, 5. Left hand is 1, 3, 5, then the little finger moves down to the B, and number 2 onto the F. Again, G stays unchanged. 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5. So before you play anything with these chords, any song, any piece, make sure that you practice the movement between the 2 chords so your hand gets used to the transition, and it's going to be easy when you have to play a melody on top of it. Now let's have a look at this very simple piece that has a melody in the right hand, melodic intervals, and chords in the left hand, the C chord and the G7 chord. Let me demonstrate it first and then I'll talk you through it. A very simple tune. When I look at this left hand, the beauty of recognizing chords is that I don't actually have to read the 3 notes. I can see from the shape which one is the C chord and which one is the G7 chord. If you look at the C chord, the 3 notes are stacked up on each other very nicely and evenly spaced out. But the G7 chord has a clashing 2 notes at the top which look like a pair of cherries, and there's a bigger gap between the top 2 notes and the bottom note. So just visually you can see which one is the C chord and which one is the G7 chord without reading any of the notes. And these are the little tricks that help our sight reading get much better and easier. So let's start with the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tie, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right hand starts number 3 on the E. Again, look out for the skips and steps and a couple of 4ths and 5ths. So all the intervals we learned before. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the chord is always going to go down together with the first note of each bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Adjusting. Back to C. Holding. Another C. G7, another G7, and that's it. So this little song should help you practice the chords in the left hand over a melody in the right hand, and make sure to practice the chords in both hands. If you enjoy this lesson, make sure to check out the premium version of this course, which is going to include a free method book, lots of filmed video tutorials for sight reading exercises, technical exercises, performance pieces, and best of all, you're going to get personal feedback from me to make sure your progress is as smooth and efficient as it can get.